Okay, so hi Jen. This is like the fourth time I've tried to take this video. Everything's fine. So this is my situated knowledge video. I'm hoping that I kind of took the right notes here and get what the gist of this is supposed to be. It seems like we're supposed to be, it's kind of following a social constructionist perspective, recognizing that everyone's life experiences influence the way they think, and so it's important for us to be able to reflect on our own life and our own experiences and look at how that shapes our thoughts and opinions and also our social work practice. Um, so I have 5 points here. The first one I wrote down is my whiteness, and I think that that really shapes my life quite a bit. There's a lot of privilege that I have that a lot of other people don't. And that's not something that I realized a lot growing up just because everyone around me was also white. Being from a small town in Inman, Kansas, that's kind of what you get. And I think as I've gone through my life and through college, especially learning about what life looks like for other people who are not white, um, I've tried really hard, I think, to recognize my privilege and try to understand and listen to those who don't have that. But I think, I mean, it's impossible for me to understand what that's like. There's a lot of experiences that I don't have, and while I think I try my best to validate those experiences of other people, sometimes there's times when like I just don't get it. And sometimes people will have to be like, okay, Sarah, like you have to think about like you think this way because you're white, or you think this way because of your privilege. Um, and so I think within social work practice, um, that can just be hard because there's some experiences that I just won't be able to relate to, and that doesn't mean that I'm not going to try to work with the other people. It just means that like I can't fully understand what their experience is. The second point I have is kind of connected, is wealth. I grew up in a relatively well-off family. And I never really, some people have to worry about where their food is going to come from, and that was not us. And so, once again, that comes, that's a lot of privilege. I got a lot of things that some people wouldn't. I always got to go to summer camp, and we always went on family vacations, and, um, you know, we always got to do the like extra sport things, and it's given me a lot of opportunities that once again other people just don't have. Same thing with the whiteness. I try to be very sensitive about that, but there are some times when people will just have to say like you're thinking this way because you grew up wealthy. And once again, in a social work perspective, like it's something that I just have to constantly be thinking about and recognizing about myself, um, because I'm not going to understand like fully understand the experiences of somebody who's gone through being really hungry, or gone through being in a homeless situation, and I hope I never have to go through those things, um, but it also makes it very impossible for me to fully understand the experiences of someone who currently is. um, the third point I wrote down was growing up in the Mennonite church. I've had sort of like a complicated relationship with the church over the years. It's gone very up and down, but at the same time, I do believe that the church has had a pretty wide impact on my values, and mostly when it comes to service and being um, very service oriented. And I think that that's probably one of the main reasons I wound up um, choosing to do social work, because of those values of just caring for everyone. And I feel like the church does a good job of the Mennonite church values and social work values, I feel like, are very similar. And I think that that's something that I grew to appreciate. The third, no, this is the fourth. The fourth point I have goes along with the Mennoniteness is my experience doing service adventure through the Mennonite Church. That was the first time I was exposed to social work and worked in a social work setting. I really feel like that impacted my worldview a lot. You know, you can read about people going through a hard time, and you can, you know, read about it's different hearing about something and then actually like going and meeting people. So I was working at Family Promise of Colorado Springs, which is a transitional shelter for families experiencing homelessness, and through that, like, I met, before that it was like homeless people were the people who sat on the side of the road and asked for money. I had never really worked with anyone who was different than me, and didn't, I don't quite know how to put this. I had never worked with, somebody who was, people who were just in a different life situation than me. And so working through Family Promise, I got to know those families who were in a homeless situation. And I think it was really that, like, for the first time I was like, wow, like, these are really people. And these, like, it's not just a label, it's actual humans that you're interacting with. And hearing their stories, I think, really had a big impact on me. It was also very helpful to have, you know, I had a lot of responsibility when I was working at Family Promise. They really let me, they saw that I could handle responsibility, and so they let me just do a whole lot in their organization, which was really great. And I think it was good for me to really get a taste of what social work could look like if I wanted it to, and also to really, I feel kind of, you know, a little bit ahead in some ways before I even got to college, just because I had had that experience before, and I knew how to communicate with people a lot better, because, you know, 90% of what I did there was talking on the phone and interviewing people and getting to know our clients and the families in our program. So that, I think, had a really big impact on me. And the last point I wrote down was actually my experience this summer in Chiapas. I think the main thing that I actually took from that, apart from, you know, having a wonderful host family and getting to know the language, was, I think it gave me a bigger appreciation for living in the United States. It's super easy here to complain about, you know, the politics and the social issues and all the things that we find super frustrating about the United States. But after being in Chiapas, it kind of became evident that, like, to me at least, that there are, you know, there's so much worse out there. You know, there are people who will, like, stand outside of polling stations and offer you money and just buy off elections. You know, there's, you know, Chiapas is the poorest state in Mexico, and there's, like, you see that. There's kids who don't go to school because they're working. There's, yeah, it's just a very different lifestyle. And a very different culture. And I think for me, that experience has pushed me even more to get into being interested in, like, immigration issues, because I know that, like, where I was honestly fantastic compared to the places where a lot of immigrants come from who are trying to get into the United States. And so if I was feeling all of these things about where I was in Mexico, which was a relatively safe, with a family who was relatively well off, if I was feeling all these things about Mexico compared to the United States, I can't imagine, how badly people from other countries where there is even more violence and it's just unsafe to live there. I can't imagine how badly they want to be in a place that's safe, and want to be in a place where, despite all the things we don't love politically, like, it's a lot better off. And so I think that that's prompted me to want to work even harder on the advocacy level, to help people come to the United States, because my experience in Chiapas, I think, was kind of a reality check for me to make me realize that the United States is a really great place to be, and that we should open our doors to and welcome people who want to come and be a part of our country. So that's what I have. I know I rambled a lot. I'm sorry. I hope this is what you were looking for. If it's completely not, just let me know and I can redo it and refilm it. But yeah, see ya.